So today we're going to look at planting our main crop potatoes in the bed that we had root crops in last year. I always follow my roots with potatoes, and I've already planted 2 rows of early potatoes. Charlotte is a first early and Mona Lisa is a second early. They're known as précoces in French. The other half of my bed, because we don't use that many potatoes, we'll be planting squashes and sweet corn in 2 to 3 weeks' time. Um, so my potatoes were last year in the bed behind. You can just see that in the corner there. The year before they were in the diagonally opposite one. So they've moved 1, 2, and then next year into the final plot, and then back into the original plot with a 4-year gap in between to try and minimize problems such as potato blight. So early potatoes such as Charlotte, that's a very common and well-known one, are the sort that we would also call new potatoes or salad potatoes. They're the earliest to harvest, usually about 90 days for the earliest, up to 100 and 110 days for second earlies. These are actually they're early main crops, but they're a main crop potato. It's a local variety called Dalida. Really, really nice potatoes. It's a Limousin variety. I've been chitting them here for a few weeks, which means that I've left them out in a light but frost-free place to try and induce early growth. Some people don't chit them, but I find that if you don't, they can sit in the soil and not really do anything whilst the soil is still cold. It's particularly important for early varieties, but I chit all my potatoes. Just to ensure that they're going to grow and not sit there and rot. So main crop potatoes are the sort that we might call old potatoes. They're the sort you can store over the winter. And literally we're still eating the last few of these that we stored from last year. And I saved the smaller ones for chitting to replant. This trench that I've dug now is about a spade's width and a spade's depth. And I'm planting my main crop potatoes about 40 to 45 centimeters apart. These are probably slightly closer because they're not such great big potatoes, but early potatoes can be planted about 30 centimeters apart. And again, I've used a string line to make sure that they're all in a nice straight row and we can easily find them. If they're all over the place, it's harder to weed and harder to find them. With main crop potatoes, they take a little bit longer to come through and they take longer to mature than your earlies. So if you've got a mixture of first and second earlies and main crop, you should have a succession of potatoes all the way through from about June. Early potatoes, you can start lifting them as you require them. As soon as the first flowers on the plant have started to fade, they'll be quite tiny at that point, but as you move along the row lifting them, they'll get bigger and bigger. And then main crop potatoes, you harvest them all in one go, usually. At the sort of end of the summer, you want to lift them all on a nice warm dry day, leave them on the surface of the soil to dry out for a few hours. Don't clean the soil out, and then pack them in either hessian or paper bags and store them in a cool but frost-free place for the winter. And they should last as long as you don't put any damaged potatoes in there or diseased potatoes. So my next job will be to prepare this half of the bed for planting squashes. I've got some heirloom sweet corn varieties to plant. Those leeks will be coming up as well very soon. They're just on, their final sort of few there. And then next time also I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to have to remove the salad and the chard there and start planting my main crop onions. But I won't waste any of the chard because I can saute it and freeze it for later use. But I've been picking the young leaves as little baby salad leaves for the time being. So Seed potatoes are actually, they're not seeds at all. They're young tubers which have been specially produced in conditions to avoid potato virus, and therefore it is recommended that you buy fresh tubers every year that are certified virus free. I save the leaders simply because they're hard to find. It's a local variety my neighbour gave me a few years ago, and I think they're a particularly nice potato.